Every cheap motel has its stories. Some about the broken neon signs, others about cockroaches the size of your thumb, and a few about worse things. But the Hollow Pine Motel had one story no one liked to tell, because the truth was too strange, too unsettling. Room 6 wasn't booked, wasn't supposed to be booked, but that never stopped the sound of the footsteps dragging across the floor at night. And one unlucky couple was about to find out why. Mark and Linda were on the tail end of a road trip that had already stretched too long. A honeymoon trip meant to be fun and romantic, but after 6 days of fast food and strange beds, it was just exhaustion. The Hollow Pine Motel appeared like an oasis on the dark highway. One flickering neon sign, a gravel parking lot, and the front office that smelled faintly of cigarettes and lemon cleaner. The clerk, an old man with liver spots and watery eyes, slid a key across the counter. "Room 5, he said. Then, almost as an afterthought, "Don't go near room 6. Not booked. Never booked." Linda laughed it off, but Mark didn't. He noticed the way the man's fingers trembled when he pushed the key forward. He noticed how his eyes started towards the hallway like something was listening. And by the time they walked away, the clerk was already locking the office door behind them. Room 5 was nothing special. A sagging mattress, buzzing lamp, carpet stains with things better left unnamed. But it was quiet. Quiet until midnight. Mark awoke first, not to the noise exactly, but to the pattern, a sound coming through the thin wall. Skrrr, skrrr, skrrr. Dragging footsteps, slow, uneven, like someone scuffling across linoleum in bare feet. Linda stared, annoyed. "It's probably the neighbors, Mark. Go back to bed." But there were no neighbors. Room 6 was locked. Room 6 wasn't booked. The sound came again, longer this time. Skrrr, skrrr. Mark pressed his ear against the wall. The noise stopped. And then came the whisper, so faint he thought he dreamt it. "Open the door." The next morning, Mark asked the clerk, "Who is in room 6? I heard something." The old man's jaw worked as if chewing on words too bitter to swallow. Finally, he shook his head. "That room ain't rented, not for 30 years. Best forget what you heard." But Mark couldn't. All day he thought about it. The dragging, the whisper. Linda teased him, said he was just tired, but her eyes lingered on the door to room 6 when they passed it. The number was painted over, but faint outlines remained. A scar on the wood, like the motel had tried to erase the memory but failed. And that night, the sound came again. Skrrr, skrrr, skrrr. This time, it stopped not at the wall, but at the door. The knob rattled just a little, then more, like a weak hand trying to twist it open. Linda sat up, eyes wide in the dark. Mark, it's at the door. Mark grabbed the lamp, the only weapon in reach. The knob turned once more, then stilled. But when he peeked through the peephole, he saw nothing. Nothing but an empty hallway. They didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Mark cornered the clerk. He wouldn't let the old man brush him off this time. Finally, with shaking hands, the clerk poured himself a whiskey from under the counter and told the story. 30 years ago, Room 6 was rented by a traveling salesman, a man who never checked out. Housekeeping found the room splattered with blood, but no body was found. No one ever saw him again. The room was then sealed, painted over, but some nights he still walks, looking for the one that took his life, looking for someone to take his place. And as Mark listened, he realized the clerk's hands weren't just shaking from age. They were shaking because he'd heard it too. That night, Mark couldn't help it. Something pulled him to room 6. He told himself it was curiosity, but deep down he knew it was more. An invitation. The door looked wrong. Too tall, too narrow, as if it didn't belong in the same hallway. He pressed his hand to the door. The wood was cold, colder than it should have been. But from the other side, something pressed back. Linda's voice screamed down the wall. Mark, don't! The door cracked open, just enough for Mark to see a sliver of darkness. Not a room, not walls, just black, a void. And in that void, eyes. Dozens of pale, lidless eyes staring right at him. And a voice that rasped like broken glass. Finally, someone answered. Room 6 wasn't booked. But it didn't matter, because now it was. Once upon a mic.